So now I'm going to show you how to style things with CSS. Okay? And I'm going to copy this page right here, your first HTML page, and Command C, and then just paste it, Command V, and I'm going to call it 004 and styling HTML. So styling HTML, and I think I'll rename that to with CSS. And so in here, I'm now ready to style that with CSS. There's two ways we could do it. So I think I'll do this. 01. Drag that in there. 02. All right, so the first way is just style tags up in the head. And you can start putting in CSS right there. And so I could target, you're going to have, there's this great book, if you haven't read it, Shay Howe. And Shay Howe, Learn to Code HTML and CSS, building your first web page. And if you scroll down, he has this little diagram, which I really like. So here is your CSS. And this is called rule set. And a rule set is made up of a selector or selectors. A rule set is made up of selector or selectors. And then it has a declaration block. Code between curly braces is often known as a code block. It's a block of code. So between those curly braces, that's your declaration block. And your declaration block has declarations. Every declaration is made up of a property and a value. And so just like with HTML, you have to learn what are all the different elements I could use. With CSS, you have to learn what are all the different properties I could use and what are their values. And that's how you style stuff. So with this rule set, this is called a rule set. Okay? With this rule set, you have declarations inside a declaration block. And you change those to style code. So your selector selects what you want to style. And you can have multiple selectors, and then you put in your declaration block, you put declarations which say what you want changed. It's pretty, color is for font color. That wouldn't necessarily be intuitive, right? You might think, oh, let's call it font color. But it's just called color. And that's not what you use to fill something in with color. That's background color, right? So you just have to learn, just like you learn all the HTML elements, you learn all the CSS properties and values. And so that's a lot of the work, is just starting to use that stuff and get familiar with it. So I'm going to take a picture of this. And that will be something I post up in the class maybe, or on this video thumbnail. And so if I want to target this, I'm going to do a rule set. A rule set starts out with a selector, and then a declaration block, and then declarations. And I could do color honeydew, hot pink, white smoke, chartreuse, right? And here's my editor just giving me some help. And I could just kind of scroll through it until I find papaya whip, medium orchid. That's kind of interesting. And I could do font size if I want. And my font size will start out with just pixels, 200 pixels. And then over here I could launch this. Cool. Right? I'm just going to reformat my code here. So code and code, reformat code, and it didn't do anything. I was thinking I might tighten that up. All right, so that's one way that you could add CSS to your document. Another way you could add CSS to your document is you could create a separate CSS file. And so style sheet and main is the good name for your primary CSS file. It's main CSS. And so I could take this CSS right from here, this rule set, and paste it in there. All right, and so now this document has the CSS there, and I just need to link to it. Link to it, and it says what is the relation? It's style sheet, and the location is main CSS. And then this will work too. So you can do your CSS in two different ways. Cool? And then just to get fancy and show you all what's possible. And this is the way we'll primarily do it in class. We'll have our CSS in its own style sheet or style sheets. But in this CSS, I could then take this and split vertically and get my CSS over on that side. And I could preview this and copy that URL. And then I could go into debug, run, debug, edit configurations. And I could add a JavaScript debug, and it's just the way you do it. And you call this whatever you want, and put in that URL you copied, and I think that's it. And I hit OK, and then I go into run. I think I just hit play, and I'm going to play that, or I do debug. So now that should be in debug mode, and so I could bring this down. I guess let's bring it down like that. And I could bring this up. And so this takes a little configuring, but I could change this to blue. And it's not doing it. Stop and rerun. There we go. And let's do chartreuse. Or go to fuchsia. I thought that would work. I'm doing something not correct. Run whatever, debug. Stop and rerun. Didn't do it. Stop and rerun. Okay, there it is. Let's see if it does it now. Green. I don't know why it's not doing it. I'll have to look that up again, but you can get it to where as you change your code, it changes. And that's called live preview. So I just haven't played with it in a while, so maybe I don't have something turned on. But it's kind of cool. So you get live preview working. Something else I will show you is Flexbox. And so here, H1 is in body. So I'm going to target body. And I'm going to say that body has something called flex, which makes it a flex container. And flex direction is going to be row. And flex wrap will be no wrap. And justify content will be center. And align items will be center. And I want body's height to be 100 viewport height. So body's going to take up the entire viewport height. And I want my HTML, my body, and my H1 to all have content, and then there is padding of 0 and margin of 0, and I always type that, border of 0, and so margin. So I'm just kind of taking off any preset padding, border, or margin that the browser might be adding in, and I'm saying the body has, you know, a height of 100 viewport height, so the whole window. And then this says, you know, take the body, make it a flex container, and it's going to be a row, no wrap. And justify content says take whatever in that flex container and put in the center horizontally. And this says put in the center vertically, right? And so now when I look at this page, like hello world is perfectly in the middle. That's cool, right? And then I could go find an image, and so paradise, and look for images, and then tools, and usage rights, and labeled for reuse. And that's a pretty cool looking paradise. I like that. View the image, and then make it bigger, and save the image as, and this is on my desktop, and it's, what? Sample temps there? I thought I got rid of that. It's in documents, and it's in HTML CSS Bootcamp and 00 temp and Spring and 04 and 03, and this is a paradise JPEG. And so now I'll come here, and for my body I could do background, and I start getting stuff, and I could do background image and URL, and I could ask it to find that file, and it's called paradise.jpg. So just recognize it. Let's see if it finds it now. There we go, Paradise JPEG. So that's Control Spacebar in WebStorm. And I can look at these other background settings. Background color, background image. I've got that one, background position. What are my options? Yeah, let's center it. I like that. And background repeat. I don't want it to repeat. And so background. And so I just kind of look through these options and see what they are. Background size. Cover the whole thing. And background, size, repeat, attachment, image position, blend mode, clip, origin, position X, Y, and the Mozilla stuff, and Microsoft, and Opera, and WebKit. I think that's pretty good. And so let's look at it now. And it's kind of a Hawaii looking thing, so maybe I'll go white here. I'll change this to Paradise. And then we have stuff down below, and we scroll, and it starts scrolling up, And this is the 100 VH is nice, and the Flexbox is nice because notice how Paradise is always staying in the center. So no matter what size viewport you're looking at this on, it's looking pretty good, right?
Yeah.
There's no scroll bars or anything, no matter what the size. And so that's perfect above the fold content. And I just showed you perfect above the fold content. Like, that's nice. That's a cool image. So the takeaways that you've learned so far, the main thing you're supposed to get in this video is styling with CSS. And we'll call this one showing off. Showing possibilities, right? But the main thing here is, what we took with this screenshot right here, desktop screenshot. Hey, got all of that. That's weird. But your CSS rule set, this is called a rule set, has a selector or selectors, and then a declaration block. Declaration block is declarations, and you have properties and values. And you just start learning what those are, and you start styling stuff. Now, there's ways to organize your code, because that could become a little bit, involved. But that's the start. Anybody have questions?
How deep does CSS go? Is there hundreds and hundreds of styles available for it?
It's very nuanced, because you have different platforms. Different devices with different browsers, different screen sizes, and some support some stuff and not other stuff. So using basic stuff, it'll all work fine. But if you want to start getting a little bit fancy, it's like, oh, this works there, it doesn't work here, And you start to look at pages like caniuse.com, and you check out, okay, can I use Flexbox? And the Flexbox, 97.61% of browsers support it. Okay, cool. Looks pretty widely supported. But can I use the grid system? 6.28%. I'm going to wait on grid. I'm not going to use that. Could I use M? Is that even in there? Email, telephone, URL, input types, root, M, units, right? So you could see, okay, I could use that. That's why it's called Can I Use. Any other questions?